Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Show It Live. This is a weekly webcast produced by our team here at Show It. My name is Liz, and I am so excited to have an amazing guest in studio with me today to talk about how he manages 70 weddings per year. You heard me right. 70 weddings per year. And photographer Drew Brashler is here, and we're going to talk all about how he manages that, what his systems are, how he's consistent in working with his brides, and how he stays sane. And I will give you a little hint. It has a little bit to do with caffeine from the Starbucks company, I think is where he gets a little bit of his sanity. But before we get into that, I wanted to remind you all, so many of you are going to come and join us in just 5 short weeks here at the Fire Sky Resort in Scottsdale, Arizona for United 2015. This is going to be an awesome event. We have, I think it's 26 speakers that are so excited to come and talk to you and share about how they run their businesses, give you inspiration for running yours. We've got some amazing styled shoots coming up, and we still have a handful of tickets left for United. So if you've kind of been sitting on the fence and thinking about it, we hope that you'll jump in. The water is warm here in Scottsdale, and we'd love it if you would join us. So without further ado, because we want to get right into how Drew Brashler actually manages to shoot 70 weddings per year. He is married and he has kiddos. So he's finding a way to balance all of that. He is an awesome showiteer. He's here locally, and JT is going to pull up his website for me so that you can see just a little bit of Drew's work. He's been a wedding photographer for the last 7 years and consistently has been increasing the number of weddings that he shoots every single year and keeping all of his work very, very consistent and all of the experiences that his clients have very consistent. And I think that that's something that sometimes you struggle with as a photographer. So Drew, thank you so much for being here and joining me in studio today. It's so fun to have like a guest right here and not over there on the screen.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is great. So I think the big question that's on everybody's mind is probably not how do you manage 70 weddings per year? It's how do you book 70 weddings per year? But don't answer it yet. You have to, hold on.
We'll keep that till the end.
Well, hold on to that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end because it sounds like a really big number, but there are some things that you have done that have consistently helped you to book more and more weddings. But it really all goes back to how you create a consistent experience for your client. And so there were 3 areas that we talked about before the show that we want to make sure that we share with all of you out watching in the internet land. Consistency is really a big thing. Systems are a really big thing, and then keeping your sanity. So which one of those do we want to talk about first, Drew?
We should almost have a 4th one, which is coffee. So Veronica
it's its own category, right?
Definitely. We drink it by the pot instead of the cup. So, but systems, and not really like automatic systems, like automated, more autopilot. So it's
interesting.
It's more a system that I have in place of what I'm going to be doing. So I manually do all of the things. So instead of sending out like questionnaires like automatically a month before the wedding, I manually do it. But I have a system that I set up for each kind of process. And one thing that's really important is like the social media side of things. So showing those photos right after the wedding, which I know everyone does. But I just have a system of, first it's the blog post, and then it's Instagram, and then we post on the business Facebook page, and then we tag the clients and that sort of thing. So there's just all these different systems and that we have set in place to be consistent from wedding to wedding to wedding. And that gives the brides a lot more feeling that it's, I'm the only bride and I'm the topic of the day type of a thing.
Okay. So whether you're shooting 7, 17, or 70, you want every bride to feel like the only bride, like that you are focused on her and on her day. And I would imagine just keeping names straight would be really, really tough. But by having a system, you're able to keep that under control.
Yes. And I use a client management software called Tave. And I have a terrible memory, believe it or not. So I do forget some names. So I go in right before the wedding or right before an engagement shoot or something like that. And I go in and I'm able to read about, his name, her name, they have a dog, they're getting married on this day. And I put in all those notes from the inquiry and kind of the booking process. And that way on the engagement session day, you know, I'm able to look back in and say, oh man, they were married or they got engaged in Italy. I got to ask them about that. And, you know, I got to ask them about their dog Rover and different things like that. And that way it kind of gives a sense that I'm a lot more connected to my clients than just like connected to 70 people times 2.
No, yeah, times 2. That is right, because wedding couples, it's a couple. It's always 2 people. So that's 140 names and faces to kind of keep together. So you're meeting your clients for an engagement session and you're meeting them with them on their wedding day. So right now that's 140 different meetings that you're having over the course of the year. Do you meet with your clients at other points?
So in the booking process, yes, I will. I'll usually have a Starbucks with them. And then usually I have a questionnaire that I send out through Tave that kind of just goes through and details different things like the timeline and the family photo list and the names and all those different things. And I also get all the vendors on that same list. And that way it's really easy for me to just put in all the vendors right into my blog post. And that saves me a lot of time from having to go remember who was the florist on this wedding and different things like that. And so I send that out. And then usually about 2 weeks to a month before the wedding, I will meet with them on Skype or FaceTime. And that saves me a lot of driving time. Because Phoenix is really big. And so just to drive around to meet with every single person is just an enormous amount of gas and time that you're in the car.
Well, and they might be meeting with other wedding vendors as well. So it's saving them time as you know, also. I think that's really important. And Skype is such a great way to be able to have a quick conversation, get across the information that you need, and then move on to your next Skype call.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great because I'm able to schedule it. And it only really takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And usually my couples are kind of cuddling together on the couch type of a thing. So they're in a really familiar spot. And so it's really easy to just kind of convey information across the board and get everything, all the final details for the wedding kind of planned up.
Now, talk to us a little bit about timelines, because I think this is one of those things that photographers want to be able to control the timeline, because the sun is going to set at some point on every single wedding day, and you need to make sure that you are getting the optimal light. So when do you send a timeline to your brides?
That's a great question. So back to the systems side of things, you know, when I book the client, I have their wedding date, their wedding location, and I input all those things into Tave, my client management system. And then in Tave, and let's pull that up to show the sunset time. This is the wedding day. There we go.
This is a really cool feature.
So I love this. This is awesome. So Tave, I'm able to input the location for the wedding, and it shows the sunset time and the sunrise time if you're an early riser. But I'm able to see the specific sunset listed on there from the location. So if it's on the east side of Phoenix, it's a few minutes earlier than the west side of Phoenix. So it's not just a blanket Phoenix statement for the sunset. So once I get that, I'm able to go in and make a timeline for them. One little system that I have in there is a numbers spreadsheet. And I go in, punch in the sunset time, and then I am able to have my spreadsheet that lists, you know, all the different times of the day that I would normally be photographing. So, you know, it takes me X amount of time to do the family pictures and X amount of time to do the bridal party shots. So I input that into a number spreadsheet and then input the timeline for the sunset, and then it pops up with the rest of my numbers. Then I take those numbers and make it fancy looking. Because everyone likes fancy, right? Everyone so then I go into Adobe InDesign and I make a timeline for the couple, and I include 2 different timelines. So one is for a first look, and the other one is more traditional without a first look. Now I do push the first look because there's so many benefits of doing that. But I let the couple decide. And I actually give them these 2 timelines immediately once they book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not waiting until a month out from the wedding. You're giving it to them.
Giving it to
maybe
them right
a year
away.
In advance.
And the benefit of doing it right away is they don't even, most couples aren't thinking about their timelines unless they have a coordinator right then and there. They're not thinking of their timelines until much closer to the wedding. So me giving them a sample timeline that's special to them with the sunset time about 90% of the time, it's the same timeline that I sent them from the original email.
Oh, that's great. So you're sort of laying the foundation that we want the photography timeline to be the guiding timeline for the day. Because sometimes they'll end up with 3 or 4. You'll show up at a wedding and there's the planner's timeline and the photographer's timeline and the DJ's timeline. And it's really nice when yours is the one that gets used. That's great. Yeah. So for those of you that are out there in the chat, we would love to know if you do a timeline for your couples and actually when you send it to them. Is anyone else sending it at the time that they book, or are you sending it a month out? I will admit I send mine about a month out. I'm thinking I'm going to change that because it sounds like it just it eliminates the possibility that they're going to go with someone else's timeline.
And also another time saver is the big thing about sending the timeline out before. One thing that Veronica and I do a lot is we answer the questions before the bride's going to ask them. And so by me sending out the timeline being the first thing that I send out along with the contracts and everything, and we use a lot of template emails. So Veronica and I spent the time to make a lot of emails that we would have come up over the course of an entire year before a wedding, and we saved those. And so in our email system, which we use Thunderbird, that in our email system, we're able to just pop in the template and then we customize it. So, I mentioned different things like the wedding venue is gorgeous. Like I love X type of thing at this wedding venue, like this beautiful tree, or that this certain month is going to be beautiful because the trees, the flowers are blooming and the leaves are on the trees and that sort of thing. So I'm doing templates because the bulk of the information is the same from bride to bride to bride, but I want to personalize it and get the personal sense into the email.
Which goes back to that experience needing to be like you are the only bride that Drew has that year, which is not true. There are 69 other brides that you're working with, but that bride feels special and unique.
Exactly. But since I send the timeline right away, I am saving myself from needing to answer an email later on down the road, a month before the wedding or 2 months or whatever, of the question, hey, how much time do you need for the wedding photography? So I'm able to just serve my clients' needs a little bit better by being early on the gun for sending emails out.
Well, I think anticipating is great because one of the questions that comes up a lot is what time should I start my hair and makeup? And especially if they have a very large bridal party, they might be starting hair and makeup at 7:30 in the morning sometimes. And so it's really helpful for them to know what time you need them ready, because it doesn't always end up to be exactly the time you need them ready. But by anticipating, I think that helps a lot. I love that.
Now, one thing I don't do with the timelines is I do not put in the reception side of things, because the DJ is the person to plan the reception because they know their flow, they know how they want things to run. And so I usually just put, reception, like grand entrance, and then just leave it at that. So I'm planning the before the ceremony with all the pictures and the cocktail hour times and specifically how much time I need for each individual thing. But then I leave the reception side up to the DJ, because they're the best person for planning that sort of thing.
Absolutely, I would agree. My husband is a DJ and he would agree that leave it up to the DJ. Once they do that grand entrance, they really appreciate that. Okay, so Drew, you talked about email being a really important system, that communication. What is another system that you use? And I'm thinking specifically about editing. How do you handle the calling and the editing of 70 weddings in a year? So blows my mind.
I know, right? Last year I did it all myself and I had zero free time. And it was terrible. So I have 3 kids at home and my wife, and so just, there's a lot of time that I want to be able to spend with them. And editing,
that's what life's about.
From last year, just editing that many weddings is a killer. But there's a lot of different systems that you can use if you're needing to edit that many. Like 40 weddings in a year is doable. And then 15 weddings is very doable, and doing that sort of thing. But once you have systems in place, you're able to expand upon that and add in more weddings. But so once you get your systems in place, it's something that can be scaled. But one big thing is get out of Lightroom for culling. Do not cull in Lightroom.
Agreed.
That's a huge thing. That is just kind of waste time. So use Photo Mechanic or Adobe Bridge. Bridge is a great product from Adobe. And so Veronica usually does my culling, which is great because it gives the female eye on things, which is awesome. Because when we're shooting weddings, it's two guys. So it's myself and my assistant Chad.
Okay.
And so it's two guys on the wedding day, and then it's really nice being able to get that female eye on actually choosing the photos.
Okay. That makes sense.
But then once the photos are chosen, then it goes into Lightroom, and then I do all my RAW to JPEG conversions in Lightroom.
In Lightroom. Okay. How many photos from a wedding? And I know we didn't talk about this before.
Yeah.
Do you have a number that you're trying to hit, or is it each wedding is kind of its own?
Each wedding is its own baby.
Okay.
Yes. Very, very large babies with lots of photos. But yeah, so I usually generally try to target around 500 to 800 images.
Okay.
Which is a pretty big range, but every wedding is different. And, you know, if they have a lot of details and they're doing a first look and they're giving me extra portrait time and I take them out during the reception for nighttime shots, there's going to be a lot more photos
adding more and more
than, say, like a 4-hour like elopement type of wedding.
Okay.
But yeah, so I try off of like a normal 8-hour wedding to target between 500 and 800 images.
Okay. So that is while it's a range, it's consistent, and that's what you're targeting for. And so the next thing we want to talk about is that consistency. And how do you maintain that with so many different brides? You're anticipating emails, so you're out ahead of the communication game. What are those pieces within consistency that really help you be able to manage all of this?
Yeah, definitely. I know we talked about emails already, but it's such a huge thing. So I'm going to go back to emails.
Okay. Bring it on back to emails.
Bring it on back to emails. So when someone sends me a text or someone sends me a Facebook message, I respond via email.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so
unless
it doesn't matter
unless
how they
it's something
reach out.
really important, like you know, what time are you getting here today, type of a thing. Then of course I would be responding with text. But I try to reply everything in an email.
Okay.
The reason being is because it's able to be archived.
Okay.
And I'm able to search it. So if I send a timeline via text, or if I send this via Facebook, I'm going to have to look over like so many different mediums to try and find what I sent that client.
Okay.
So I always respond in email. And now I don't have any fancy folders. Like I just leave everything in my inbox, and if it's not responded to, it's still in my inbox. And then once it's responded to, I archive it.
Okay.
Now, one thing is, my wife and I use both of our phones. We have laptops. I have my desktop computer. And so if, you know, there's two types of email things.
Yes.
Pop and IMAP. And I know you guys kind of touched on this last week.
Yeah, we had a great episode last week with Lucas Van Dyke, and we talked about email because it really is a huge part of your business, and it can take control of you, and you need to take control of it.
Yes. So check that out if you haven't watched it yet. But I do IMAP emails, which is there's POP3 and there's IMAP. And POP3 basically lets your device go reach out to the email server and download all of the new emails. And then your device is now what those emails get archived.
Okay.
And that's where it lives. IMAP puts the emails on the server.
Okay.
And so your device goes and reaches out and looks at the server and then lists the emails that are on the server.
Okay.
And so when I'm replying to an email on my desktop and then go and archive that, I can go then to my cell phone and it will pop up that it's already been archived.
Okay.
And so my inbox between my cell phone, my wife's cell phone, our laptops, my desktop computer, it's all consistent.
They're all talking to each other.
Exactly.
Okay.
Where if you were using POP3, it would be totally different.
Okay. All right.
Because there's no way for it to sync.
So if this sounds really foreign to you and it's all working just fine, you can leave it alone. But if you are finding that you go to look for an email on your phone and it's not there because you've already opened it on your desktop computer, if you're using like Gmail or Macmail, you can go in and you can select to use IMAP.
Yes.
And you can Google specifically how to do that for your email server. But I think it's really important that you get control over your email. All right, so you've got control over your email. You're only responding via email, which I love. That I've never heard that idea. I think it's great because I will lose text messages. I don't know like where they go, or you see it like when you're at a stoplight and you're like, oh no, I should not be on my phone when I am driving. This is not safe. And then I will forget for sometimes like 2 weeks, and then I'll like go through that same intersection and be like, oh, I didn't respond to that. So I like the idea of like always coming back with an email. That's great.
Yeah, we tried the folders side of things, like having like an action folder and different things like that, and we failed miserably on it. So
good to know.
Yeah, but another thing to mention is Tave lets you import emails. So I can blind carbon copy your BCC an email to a specific address at Tave. And then I'm able to go into Tave and assign that to my clients. So like if I send an email with an updated timeline, or if I have a family photo request, you know, a week before the wedding, I'm going to want to remember that on the wedding day. So I will go in after responding and blind carbon copy forward that to Tave and then assign that into my client. And that way, on the wedding day, or you know, the day before when I'm printing out the timelines, I can go in, click in there, and read any notes, all the emails, stuff like that. So that's pretty big. Also, when I'm getting a phone call, and this is really big, is when that bride calls you out of the blue wanting to ask questions, which is great. I love answering questions, but you need to know every single detail about her wedding like that. Not yesterday, you gotta know it now, you know? And so I use Tave when I'm just sitting in my home editing photos or whatnot. I will go in and leave Tave open. That way, when I do get that phone call, I'll be able to just search with the client name and be able to pull up all the notes and then just finish that phone call with them. And then I will input the rest of the notes that I need to from that phone call in there too.
All right, so that's consistency.
That is consistency.
Which probably leads a lot into this third area we wanted to talk about, which is how do you maintain your sanity with all of this? Because again, whether you are doing 17 or 70 weddings, it can feel overwhelming if you don't have good systems in place and you're not consistent in how you handle all of the information that comes in and all of the information that goes out. So other than Starbucks,
I was just going to say coffee is sanity.
Other than caffeine and coffee, how do you maintain your sanity through this process? Because you don't have an off season really, right? Like it just keeps rolling. There's always something to do for your business.
There is summer here in Phoenix, which is not sane for anyone who lives in Phoenix because it's way hot. But you know, with the sanity side of things, when you're shooting 15, 20 weddings, chances are you're not going to have like back-to-back weddings that are at the same venue. But when you're shooting a lot more, you have a lot bigger possibility of shooting a back-to-back wedding that's at the same venue. So one big thing is just going into the wedding with an open mind and have a specific thing that you're wanting to target on that wedding day, and just make sure you complete that. Like I want to photograph at this spot and get this sort of look. Like having that little inspiration in the back of your mind really pushes you ahead in the wedding day and actually shooting. And so just trying to have a little bit different look from wedding to wedding to wedding.
Something unique for that couple.
Something unique to that couple. I draw a lot of inspiration from my wedding couples rather than the wedding venue. And so that kind of helps me kind of keep the weddings being a little bit more intimate to that couple. But I still will deliver, you know, the full length dress shot and, you know, just those textbook iconic photos. But another thing with being sane with having 70 weddings in a year is
3 children and a wife
is taking time away. You have to get away from the computer. And so last year, I edited all 68 weddings that I shot, which is just insane. But then this year, I finally outsourced my editing. Yes.
So was that hard for you to do?
Was.
Give up that control?
It was. Now, the one thing is I still touch every single photo before it's exported from Lightroom. So we use shoot.edit. And so love them. It's awesome. And so I go and Veronica chooses the images and then I'll load them into Lightroom. I will process my blog photos myself. So we'll go in and choose 40 to 80 photos, just our favorites of the day. And I will process those and edit them a day or two after the wedding. And get those
so you're doing that very quickly.
Very quickly. And so once I have that set, then I will go ahead and just export that to shoot.edit. They will go through and edit all the photos, but then I have to download a file and then I still will do the actual exporting on my machine. So I'm still going through and verifying you're every single photo because I have my image look and I want all my images to look consistent. And so I will do little tweaks from photo to photo to photo. And then I'll export the photo. So I still do touch every single photo, but just not as much as I used to with actually having to edit, color temperature and the exposure and different things like that.
So that's bought you then a lot of time back with your wife and your kids and other time to work in your business and work on your business.
Definitely, because time that you're spending editing, if you can export that to someone else and spend that same amount of time trying to find that different client or trying to spend that time better for serving your client, you're just going to give
something
the brides,
proactive in your business.
You're giving that bride a lot better experience by doing it that way.
That's awesome.
And so so I exported outsourced the editing, which is a big thing. But taking time to get yourself inspired. When you're shooting a ton of weddings, it's easy to get in this rhythm of just the same thing over and over again. And so you want to keep yourself inspired and excited about photography. So go and find a workshop or two to go and just dump yourself into, relax away from your business for a couple days, and just soak up all the new information. Because like United's coming up, we're going, excited about that.
So you are leading an amazing style shoot.
I am.
You are going to lead the bridal portraits shoot, which I think is just going to be so fantastic. And we're just so excited to see what comes out of that, because the attendees get to learn from you, but they also get to shoot and expand their portfolio and learn how you shoot bridal portraits on the day of the wedding, which is just going to be awesome.
There may or may not be some pirate jokes. Oh yes. Which Veronica kills me, but when I do that, so we won't mention that too much. But so finding those workshops or different things to get your business back fired up, yourself back fired up, because if you're not in top-notch condition, like mentally, you're not going to be able to give that same sort of top-notch service to the client. And so last year, I did the 68 weddings, and I still attended a few workshops, and I went to a marriage conference with my wife. So, just taking that time away from your business and being able to separate yourself is really, really hard. It's really hard.
So hard.
The first time that you walk away from your emails and like, okay, I am done with emails for the day. I am not responding until tomorrow for anything else. It's really, really tough. But being able to take that time and separate yourself is really good for recharging yourself. So,
I think that's a really good thing. I think as creatives, we fall into the trap of working in our business and not on our business, and not being able to separate ourselves from it. And it's a really good thing when you are very connected to your business, but you have to be able to disconnect. And we live in a really, I don't want to say weird world, but it's different than like even our parents with social media, because everything is connected at all times. And so being able to step back, I think, is really good, and focus on things like your marriage, spend time with your kids, and just come back with a new perspective.
Another big thing is having lists. So just having a daily task list. Now I don't do like Monday, I'm going to be doing blogging. Tuesday, I'm going to be doing SEO.
All right, so you don't have like a schedule.
I don't. I have a wish list in Trello. It's a great software. But in Trello, I have just this wish list of things that I want to get updated, like do SEO on this page of my website, that sort of thing. And so Veronica and I will just go throughout the year and just add little things in there. And so throughout the months and whatnot, I'll grab a thing and tackle that on one day. But my lists are daily. So I'll go through and make a daily list. Veronica is awesome at making lists, and I'm really good at completing the list.
So, you get to like cross things off.
Yes.
I love that.
So find someone who's good at making lists for you and go complete those. It may be your spouse, even if they're not involved with the wedding photography, they may be really organized and being able to help lay out things. But being able to take that pencil or pen and crossing off that, hey, I exported this wedding. It makes you feel really good.
I have been known to add things to the list that I've just completed, simply so that I can highlight them off the list, because I just really like that.
I've done that too.
It feels good to be like, I did it, I conquered. That's
like
awesome.
Pot of coffee 1 down. Check.
That's awesome. Okay, so you make lists, and what are some other things that you do to make sure you have sanity? You're out there, you're trying to be creative, you're trying to find inspiration, you're making lists. What else are you doing?
So just being able to complete those lists was big. And then just having that time for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going back to that, because if you don't take time for yourself and recharging your business and recharging yourself, you're not going to be able to put in all of yourself into the business.
Right.
You know, I am a firm believer that spending a bulk amount of time at once is much better, and you're going to be much more productive than spending that same amount of time in little chunks across the day. So one thing I do is I'll respond to emails in the morning and in the afternoon.
Okay.
And
I love this system.
So being able to spend an hour on emails in the morning and maybe 30 minutes of on emails at night or in the afternoon is much better than, you know, grabbing your phone every time you hear that little pop and responding to an email right then and there. So you're still responding within 24 hours and usually the same day, which is good. But you're not constantly looking at your phone, because if you're doing one task, say editing photos, and then you hear that little email bleep, and then you task over to your mail, you've all of a sudden just separated yourself from editing, and now your mind is a completely different spot. You have to gather yourself up, look at your email, oh my gosh, they need a timeline, and then you're off into a rabbit trail of different things. So being able to just dedicate certain time for I am sitting down and doing this and completing it and then moving on to the next task will keep you a lot more productive.
Okay. I love that. I think that's a great idea. So I have a question, and this is where this is not in the in line. We want to go back a little bit. I want to ask you about the outsourcing part. Was it really hard for you to, I mean, we talked about giving up the control, but were you nervous about how that was going to work out? I mean, I hear a lot of photographers say, I want to outsource, but I don't have the time to try it. Like, I'm too scared to even go down that road because they've gotten in the hamster wheel and they can't get off this like crazy Ferris wheel ride. Yeah. Was it scary?
It was terrifying. Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, I wasn't like gripping my chair, you know, white knuckles or anything like that, but it was. I mean, I had a very consistent look that I was wanting to be able to deliver to that client. Now, what I did find is that my consistency actually went up when I outsourced. Because when I was spending the time editing every single photo, you're in the mindset that I got to get this finished so I can answer emails, and then I can make a timeline, and then I can do this, and then I can get to pick up my kids from school and then do the engagement session later today. So your mind is just going crazy. And when you're able to just kind of step back and give that to someone else who their sole job is to edit your photos, the consistency went up. And so I was still able to get my image look, because I mean, that's a big thing, is the look of your images is special to each photographer. And, you know, so in my mind, once I outsourced, I was really afraid that it wasn't going to be consistent. But then I found that it actually was more consistent because the person that was doing my photos, shoot.edit, was being able to spend more time with each image to make sure that it was looking good. I love that. I think that's great. There was a better outcome than maybe what you initially anticipated. We've got a question coming in from Mary Morantz. Hi, Mary. She wants to know about post-wedding workflow. And I think sometimes we get caught up and we're really excited about what comes before. But how do you handle what happens after? And that's when we're delivering product, we're delivering albums, we're delivering, you know, maybe album boxes. How does that work for you? How do you handle that on the back end? Yeah, great question. So I do the blog, which is the first thing that I do. So once I get home from a wedding, I will go download the cards and start loading
blog is number one.
Loading those things into Bridge, and then we choose those photos. And then oftentimes when I'm coming home from a wedding, I am making a voice note on like a voice memo on my iPhone of just different things that happen during the day. And that makes my job of making that blog post a lot easier. Because, you know, not only do you have to process the photos, but you also have to put in the content into the blog post, because you can't just blog and not say anything about the couple. You know, you got to mention that cute little thing that their daughter did, or the beautiful florals that she had, and things like that. So you, so when I'm driving home from a wedding, I'll often be making notes to myself via the voice memos. And so then once I get home, we download the cards and cull them, and then I do the blog post very, very quickly. And by having it being posted really quickly, your clients are so excited when it goes up. And now one thing I do mention to my clients, and hopefully they're not listening because they'll know later, is I will tell them that I'm going to be posting their blog post in a week to 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I end up posting it the day or two after the wedding.
Okay. So you are totally exceeding the expectation.
Over quote, and then, you know, just deliver way faster than you told them.
Okay.
And that way, not only are they excited to see those photos right after their wedding, but they're also excited, whoa, he just spent so much time to edit my photos and get them delivered to me right away. Also, the other benefit of having the blog post right away is you can take a little bit longer to process the full bulk of wedding photos because they've already seen their photos. Now, when I post them on Facebook, I don't put my copyright on the photo. I don't put my copyright mark. And they're now able to use those photos on their Facebook. They're going to be getting the photos anyway after the wedding. But being able to have them have those images up on their Facebook, all their friends are able to see them. That gets them really excited. And then I've noticed that they'll wait a little bit longer to receive the images.
All right. So they're on their honeymoon. They're like laying on the beach and they're like changing their profile picture and their cover photo to your images. So if you're at home and you're shooting, 30, 40 weddings and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so swamped with this editing. If you're able to just shoot those blog photos out and just edit, 40 images, does like your favorite images of the wedding day and send those out to the couple, they're going to be a lot happier. And then they'll wait a little bit longer to get the rest of those photos. But anyway, so we finish the blog post and then it goes to shoot that edit. And then I'll end up processing the images. We use Pass, love Pass for actually delivering the images to the client. And I love that it's able to just share with everyone. I mean, if I was on the client side, I would want my family to be able to go in and download that cute photo of, grandma and grandpa. So I use that. I do have lists for different things that I'll need to accomplish after the wedding, post-wedding. So I'll have a list and you can set up tasks inside of Tave that will just be like, if you book this package, it'll give you this set of tasks that you need to complete. And then you can go and kind of check those off inside of the client software. And so, you'll go in there and click posted blog post, edited wedding, that sort of thing. Which goes back to your systems. That you've got a system from the time that they inquire all the way to the very last product that you would deliver to them.
So all the albums, all the album boxes, if you need to order an album box, I would have that inside of that list that you need to complete. I mean, even if you order those boxes in a bulk, being able to check off that you've checked your closet, that you have one of those boxes is important. And so just, finishing those lists post-wedding is big. And then I do delete all of the original RAWs after I process through Lightroom. So
everyone in the internet just went, so talk about that.
So in Lightroom, I will take those photos that I get back from shoot.edit and I will process them from RAW to DNG. So I am still keeping the RAW. And then to JPEG. But the DNG is a processed version of that RAW file. But it still retains the RAW information.
You can get down to the raw level, but it's got all of the data, and it then can't be separated, which I love about DNGs. Because sometimes, have you ever edited a wedding and then you lose the sidecar files, and you're like, where have they gone? I did that once, and I re-edited an entire wedding in 5 hours, and it was awful and it was terrible. And then Trevor Daly actually told me about DNGs, and I was like, that's going to solve that problem.
They are awesome. So I always deliver JPEGs to clients. I never give them RAW. Just because RAW is just gigantic files, and there's no real reason to give them 20 gigs of photos. It's better to just give them the JPEGs that they can use and whatnot. So I will keep the original RAW photos for about 1 to 2 months after the wedding. Because if there's a photo that I need to go back to find, like say I happen to miss choosing a photo for some reason, that would happen within the first couple weeks of you posting the wedding.
And they're looking through past and they're going, where's the photo with
Where is
Edna?
this photo? Yes. So that's the only reason that you would need to keep the original RAW files. And so I'll keep the DNGs for 1 year. After that, I delete them.
Okay.
And then I just keep the JPEGs, which is a processed version of the photo.
Right.
And I don't have ever the need to go back and re-edit a photo.
Okay.
And if I do, it's usually just like blemishes, touch-ups.
Okay.
And there's no real need to go back to the DNG.
Okay.
Also, if your client's ordering a ginormous print and you're wanting to go back to your DNG for that extra file, that's going to happen within the first year.
Okay.
And so there's no real reason to keep
to hold
those.
on to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, space is cheap. So, I mean, granted, you can go buy just 3 terabyte drives are not too expensive.
But pretty soon you're like collecting 3
Yes.
terabyte drives. I have a whole bookshelf of just drive after drive after drive, and they will inevitably fail. They do over time. They will fail, or when your child knocks them off the shelf. But that's what's great about something like Pass, that it's up on a server and it's been saved.
Definitely.
And that it has such a good like calming effect for a photographer to be like,
definitely does.
They're up on the server and it's been, you know, it's redundant and all of that techie fanciness.
I will never delete the JPEGs.
Okay.
Yes.
Always keep the JPEGs.
I will always keep the JPEGs because the JPEGs from one wedding, even if it's like 900 images from a wedding, it's not that much space.
Tiny. Yeah.
And so I do data backup through Backblaze,
love
which is online backup. Now, the trick about online backup is you have to make sure that you have fast internet. So you got to go back and look at your upload speed, not your download speed, but the upload
speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's a huge thing, having your stuff backed up. There's a lot of different backup systems out there, but I know that it works for me. But I'm also able to kind of guarantee to the client, hey, 9 years from now, if you happen to lose your photos, I will still have them.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of important to be able to give that.
That reassurance is huge from a bride who did not buy her digital files because digital had just come out when BJ and I got married. And I went back to my photographer on our 5th wedding anniversary, and I was like, I've got my money. I'm ready. I can buy my files. And she says, oh, I deleted them about 3 months ago.
I actually just had a bride from 2011 contact me and say that she moved and misplaced her disc and her computer crashed and she didn't have them. And I was able to mail her a DVD of all of the files.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So we had a question from Jake out in the chat, and he wanted to know, with those JPEG files, are you providing a full resolution JPEG or are you giving them like a scaled down version?
So great question. So there's 2 different type of models that you can do with photography. You know, there's print sales models, and then there's the package full boat type of model where you're not trying to sell post-wedding.
Okay.
So it's going to depend on what type of model the photographer is wanting.
Okay.
So with someone who's wanting to be able to go in and sell those giant photos and those nice canvas, you may think about not delivering a full-size image because then that gives the ability for the client to then take those full-size images and go make
to Costco and make a print.
But I do give the full resolution files to the client. Okay. If, you know, it kind of goes back to what I would want if I was on their side. Okay. And I would personally want the full resolution files. Okay. And so, but yes, so through Pass, I believe it gives them 4,000 pixels wide and tall. Okay.
So that's a pretty good size.
Pretty good size.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, so I do give the full resolution files, but I don't give RAW.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I don't think that RAW is a completed product.
Right. Yeah. It's raw. It's not finished, and a lot of them wouldn't even have the capability to open that. You know? And if they did, we don't maybe want our photos all sepia colored, although I have a very beautiful blue photo from my wedding day. So Dave Ramos just said, Drew, you just inspired me to quit my day job and pursue full-time photography.
That's awesome.
Yay! I feel like we should stand up and dance, but then we would get out of focus and
I'm really
frustrate
terrible at
JT.
dancing. You don't want to see me dance.
Oh, there could be dancing at United.
Ooh.
Or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not for you, Drew. So.
You don't want to see me dance.
Yeah. All right. So if you have a question for Drew out there, we would love to have you post that up, and we'll go through the chat in just a minute. And I'm going to ask the question of Drew, how do you book 70 weddings in a year? But real quickly, I wanted you to show, we've got some screenshots of Tave, and we're big fans of any system that helps you manage your business better. And so this is a CMS, our client management system. We've talked about it a lot today, but walk us through some of these screenshots. The one that I really like was the calendar, where you could see very quickly for the next like 36 months, I think it is, what days you're available. And I know some people in the chat said where they live, Saturdays are the day that people get married. Here in Arizona, we have people getting married on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, and sometimes a random Wednesday. I feel like Tuesday and Thursdays are the only days off the table now. But this is a great way to just look quickly at like your next 3 years.
Yeah. So the client management software, there's a lot of different types out there. And so I would suggest to, you know, a photographer at home that is just getting started into a client management software to go look at all of the ones that are out there. There's tons. Yeah. And my wife and I, we found Tave and we just fell in love with it. And then one main reason that we love it is because of the redundancy and backup that they have as a company. They're in the entire 6 years that we've been with them, they've had zero downtime pretty much, other than the few like random updates that they do that they email you a week before or 2 weeks before and give you that 1 hour window of, hey, it's going to be down for updating during this time. At 2
a.m., try not to be on Tave. Try to be sleeping.
And then one other thing that you want to look at with the CMS is making sure that it's multi-platform. So being able to take your phone and log in and being able to just look through the entire timeline or look up details.
Sure.
And so that's a really big thing.
Yeah. Being able to, like, in the parking lot before the engagement session, be like, what was the groom's name? What was the groom's name? And being able to actually find it. That has happened to people I know.
To people you know. Yeah, I think I've known a couple of people that have maybe forgotten the groom's name on a wedding day, perhaps.
Okay, so multi-platform was a really big deal for you.
Multi-platform is big, yes. And then another thing was just being able to look at all of the different ones and just finding the one that's right for you. So a lot of the CMS programs out there will have trials. So go and look and try a trial. Now, when Veronica and I fell into a CMS, we had everything paper and we had a lot of weddings on the books, and it took so long.
I just had a vision of like an office with notebooks and folders and files everywhere.
Yeah, we had like the 2 giant 4-drawer filing cabinets, old school. Yeah, so we now don't even use a filing cabinet.
It's all digital.
It's all digital, which is great. But one thing that was really tough for Veronica and I when we first initially went into a CMS was inputting all of the data.
So that's a project.
Yes, it's a very big project. And the one thing that you want to do is start with the farthest wedding out from now and input it into this and work backwards rather than inputting the stuff that you have next week and the month, next month type of thing. And that way, when you do it that way, you're able to serve your clients in the future better. Right now, in the next month, I already know kind of the majority of the timelines for all my couples. So there wouldn't be any benefit for me inputting in next week's client into the client software. So when you're starting out, I would work backwards. So start with your farthest wedding out, and then make sure you go and input all of the stuff previous as well. Because one thing that I love about Tave is just the reports that it gives you. So you can go in and view the booking ratio of where you were getting your clients from, which we'll talk about later.
It's coming very quickly. They're all on the edge of their seats.
And then, I mean, the reports for like money, for like profit off of a certain product and different things like that. There's all these different reports that will just make you go crazy over just all the different reports. So all the really organized people on the other side of the screen are just going to love all the reports.
Well, I think the reports are really important because we get so caught up in our businesses. Sometimes we don't know how they are doing. And if you want to be a long-term small business owner, you have to pay attention to those numbers and know, like, where do I make money, where do I lose money, so that you can make good decisions for your business moving forward.
Oftentimes you have to be a business person first and a photographer second, and then you have to switch to be a photographer first and a business person second. But you gotta really dig into your business and make sure that it's thriving.
I love that.
Okay, so Tave is awesome. So I think we have the first page pulled up here on Tave. So when I log into Tave, this is what I see. And so we have the left taskbar that kind of shows us our different things that we can go into.
Okay.
It'll also pop up the weather.
Ooh,
and
like that.
then, yes, exactly. So it'll show us the weather today and for the next couple days and different things like that. On the right side of the screen, which I shot, I cropped out, is all of the price and money side of things.
Financials.
So like,
okay.
you know, accounts receivable and stuff like that.
So you can see a lot in just
see a lot.
In a snapshot when you look at Tave quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then we can move to the calendar, which is really important. So when I get a phone call or am getting an inquiry email, I want to be able to go and see it. Hey, do I have this date available?
Okay.
So you can go and click your calendar. Now we do different colors for different things.
Okay.
So I have a photo shoot, you know, a wedding is green. A day that I'm unavailable is a certain color. So I have all these different colors. Orange days in there if you guys are Amy and Jordan fans.
Yes, orange days.
So we love orange days. So all of that is in there. So we are able to kind of go and look at the calendar and see I'm doing X on this day.
Okay.
Another big thing is being able to have the client being organized. So let's pull up the wedding day overview.
I love how you get a quick snapshot when you look at it and you can answer that question really quickly. Because if you're doing 70 weddings a year, you're getting a lot of inquiries every week. That becomes part of the management of your business.
Yes, definitely. And so this on the screen coming up here is going to be the wedding day. So this is where I can put in all the information of who's going to be at the wedding, you know, what the timeline is. I can input, you know, the time that I start and the time that I finish. And I'm able to subscribe to this calendar on my iPhone. And so when I pull it up on my iPhone, I'm able to see that. But you can see
and also nice for your wife. Then Veronica can see what days you're working, what time you have to start, what time, you know, you're going to be done. I love that. And
then it will show the average temperatures over for the certain days. And then also will pop up with the sunset and sunrise times. So if you're doing that early morning engagement session at sunrise to get that really nice light, that'll pop up in there, which we do a lot during the summer.
Yes, very, very popular here in Arizona. We talk a lot about the weather, but it's because we have very extreme weather. It's just either really, really hot, or it can be quite cold in the desert in the winter time. So we go back and forth on that. So real quickly, we have actually a coupon. Right? A promo from Tave, from the team at Tave. We are so grateful. Thank you so much for providing this. Tell the folks what they can get.
So Tave, if you go to tave.com and input show it 2015 when you're signing up for your trial, they will give you 10% off of your subscription for the first year. Which is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me about the use of Tave and whatnot. It's a really great program. And so I love it. Veronica and I love it. Absolutely.
And the point is finding something that works for you, that helps you to be consistent, to set up systems in your business so that you're managing your business. It's not controlling you, and so that you can have sanity. So thank you for those of you that have been watching. This has been an awesome episode. But there is that one question that I think
golden
question that really was not what this episode was about, but I think it's what people really want to know. It's great that you can manage 70 weddings, but how in the world do you even book 70 weddings? I think people would be thrilled to get 70 inquiries in a year. So Drew, how do you book 70 weddings in a year?
So once you have your systems in place, and once you're serving the clients well and giving those clients this amazing experience that they feel is like such an intimate wedding photography experience, they're going to rave about you.
So
they're going to be so excited and tell all of their friends that are going to be getting married about you and the photography. And so when you have those systems in place, it's going to be consistent from client to client to client. And all of your clients generally will really enjoy your services and love you. So a lot of my referrals are from previous clients. Another area that I serve well is the coordinators and the venue people and the bakeries and the florists. And because I use Pass for delivering the images, I'm able to link to give that link to the florists and the venue and all of that. So I get a lot of referrals from venues and other companies
Okay.
because of that.
Okay.
You know, when you go and send that email to the florist of the photos and say, hey, you can download any photo that you want to, feel free to enjoy.
Right.
That's huge because
That is
a
so
lot
valuable.
of photographers will promise photos but then not deliver, which is really sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you have those systems in place, it's a lot easier to deliver on that.
Okay.
So a lot of it is venue referrals, previous clients, and then Google.
Ooh,
yes,
Google.
Google search engine.
Okay.
I don't pay for advertising online.
Okay.
And so a lot of it is SEO with Show It, which is great. They have all of the SEO tools inside of Show It, so make sure you guys read up on that and use them. But I've been able to kind of SEO my website into working well with Google.
That's awesome.
And then just making sure that you're always posting on your blog, because when somebody goes and looks at your blog and sees that hasn't been an update in like 3 months
or a year,
they will probably just have a little bit different of a feeling of you than if you were posting once a week. Consistency. It doesn't have to be every day. And during the summer, it's really hard for me to keep up a blog post every single day. But being able to be consistent and say, hey, I am going to dedicate myself to posting on Mondays and make a blog post every single Monday, the client will really enjoy that a lot more.
I think the consistency is really, really huge, especially for those. Sometimes people are shooting a lot of weddings and they're not blogging them. And I have fallen into this trap of I don't blog them and then it looks like I'm not working. But the reality is I'm working so much that I'm not blogging them. And so you have to find a way to get that into your rhythm, get that into your system. And the way that you're taking notes on the way home, I love that. You're taking a voice memo. It's got to make it so much easier to sit down and write. You know, a paragraph is what, 6 sentences? Like you can just sit down and write even a couple of paragraphs from those notes, have a blog post done, and that really helps to build trust in that potential client who wants to send that inquiry to you.
I'm glad that you brought up the voice memo thing again, because I have a terrible memory and I'm really bad at writing. Are two things. And with blog posts, a lot of people worry about the content and writing stuff. My favorite thing is I take my iPhone and I will put it on voice memos and set it on the DJ table for toasts. So for the father of the bride toasts, the mom if they toast, the best man, maid of honor, all of those are now in a voice memo on my phone. So if I'm blogging the next week and I've had another wedding and engagement shoot between that time, I can go listen and be like, all right, what was this about? Or if they're writing their own vows, set it next to the speaker or on the DJ table and listen to the vows that they wrote, because you can pull inspiration off of just a lot of different spots.
I love that. I never would have thought about that.
So even if you're bad at writing, you could just like completely write down the toast and that's your blog post. So for all the people that love shooting but are terrible at writing, your blog posts.
All right, so charge the batteries for your camera, the batteries for your off-camera flash, and your phone battery, so that you have enough phone battery to record that. I think that's awesome. That's such a great idea. Okay, so the way that you're booking these 70 weddings, again, is word of mouth referrals. Working with the vendors and getting them images. And then SEO in Google, which you can go in and you can do it on your Show It site. Blogs are great for SEO because every time you write a new blog post, that's a new page. And the more pages you have and the more consistent you are with those pages popping up, Google loves that. So what do you do to handle inquiries? Because if you're booking 70 weddings, on average, how many inquiries are you getting? And I know you've got a report that would tell you how many you're actually converting into clients. But I think this is kind of my final question is, how do you handle the inquiries that come in?
Great question. So on my Show It site, and I think we can pull it up later, but on the Show It site, there's the inquiry form, and I will ask just really specific questions. And usually I'll leave the last box is really big. And so I love it when brides will go in there and just give me like an entire book about their wedding.
So you're inviting them to tell you a lot about themselves.
In fact, I ask them what type of coffee to drink on the inquiry form.
Very nice.
And so I will, I'll take that inquiry form and then I will send out a template email that I've written, that Veronica's written. And that template email is the same for every single bride, but I will go in and personalize it. for that person. So like my
based
template
off of their inquiry.
so my template email says, hi, XXX. You know, a bunch of X's. So I just go and highlight that and type in their name, and then a little bit about their venue, or I'll kind of link a previous wedding that I've done off of my blog. So like if they were getting married at like Sassy, I would link one of my past weddings that was at Sassy.
That's a great idea, because then it's showing them I've shot there, I know this venue, I'm very comfortable there, they trust me, they love me. I think that's a great tip. It's like a ninja tip.
Right. Totally. And then, so on my website, I list a starting price, but I don't list my prices. So I can get that inquiry. So if somebody's able to just look at your packages, they're not going to want to contact you to ask about your packages. They're just going to look at your packages, but they may not know that you know, have these certain little quirks about you that you can kind of put into the email or the wedding pricing guide. So I have a 7-page pricing guide that talks about me and Veronica, and how we serve our clients, and how Veronica doesn't shoot and I do. And she does the culling. She does the culling and a lot of the client relationships and stuff like that. So, you know, so for all of those inquiries, I'll send an email that's very personal, but still a template. And I'll send the pricing guide right then and there. So the first email that I send out. Right on it. I love that. All right. So 70 weddings this year. Yes. What do you think is the max that you can do? And 70 weddings, that's gotta be Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday. Like you're shooting more than just Saturdays. There's one that's going to be like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, which will be insane. Oh yeah, people talk about double headers. I'm not even sure what you call that. Like you just don't sleep because I'm shooting the World Series of weddings. Yeah, I don't think I'll have a max. I don't think I'll ever cap it. Yeah. Yeah. But if you're wanting to shoot less weddings, you can always raise your prices. Yes. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Which is one thing that you can do. So kind of over time, if you're wanting to shoot less weddings, you can kind of use your pricing to kind of accommodate that. But I don't think I'll ever cap it. I'm kind of crazy and just love shooting clients. I just love photographing. That's awesome. You have a consistent second shooter, which I think is really great. Chad shoots all of your weddings with you, which is really helpful. Yeah. You know, you guys are like a team on a wedding day, and you know how you work together. You're doing a lot of things on that wedding day to make it easier. I know you shoot with an expo disc. Yes. So you're really thinking all the way through, how can I make this more manageable? How can I make it a unique experience for the bride? And how can I still spend time with my family? Because ultimately that's why you would do this, right? Is so that you can have that life with your family and the freedom to run your own business. Totally. That is awesome. Drew, this was so much fun. I can't believe we talked for as long as we did. Thank you so much to all of you who have hung in there with us. If you have more questions for Drew, what's the best way for people? Can they reach out to you and ask more questions? Feel free to go on my website, brashlerphoto.com. And just send me an inquiry. You'll have to just like type some into the groom field. So you'll just have to put your name and just put none for groom. You could put your camera name. Oh, there we go. Yeah, because you're married to your camera on the wedding day. What kind of a camera are you married to, Drew? Oh, yes, I'm a Nikon person. Yeah. Dark side of the force. And my second shooter is Canon. He makes fun of me a lot. Oh, I feel like that's a whole other episode of how do you balance? Yeah. How do you do that when you're shooting 2 different cameras? That's awesome. Expo disc makes a huge difference. We'll make that another episode of Show It Live. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been such a great episode with Drew. If you missed any of it, you can actually go to showithere.com/live and see the entire show and see all of our past shows as well. We referenced last week's episode with Lucas Van Dyke, where we talked about email management, which is really a huge part of your business. And I hope that you will join us next week. We'll be back at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. We are going to be talking with Jessica Haley about 10-mile marketing, which I think is going to be such a fun topic. Jessica is a photographer back east. She's actually from Arizona, and she's going to be out here for her sister's wedding. So we'll have her live on the show. And then we've got some great upcoming shows for you. We've got your marketing BFF, who is Tana Nelson, and she is a great marketing expert. She's going to share some ideas with us, as well as Jamie and Sarah McCauley are coming up towards the end of the month. And we hope that you will tune in for those. Drew, thank you for being here in person. This was so great. I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll see you soon back here on showithere.com. Bye. Bye. Thank you.